January 30th, 1925. The small town of Cave City, Kentucky, is quiet in the pre-dawn chill. It's a place built on a foundation of rock and rumor, a community whose fortunes rise and fall with the secrets hidden just beneath the surface. Out on the Flint Ridge, a cold winter bites the Kentucky hills. The air is still, heavy with the damp scent of frost and sleeping earth. The trees are bare skeletons, their bony fingers clawing at a slate-grey sky that promises no warmth. It's a stark, unforgiving landscape, beautiful in its own harsh way. At the cave's edge, a lone figure readies himself. Now, near the mouth of a dark, unassuming hole in the ground, a man checks his gear one last time. His hands, calloused and knowing, move with practiced efficiency over the worn coil of rope, the sturdy lantern, the simple tools of his trade. His name is Floyd Collins. He is a cave explorer, but that title doesn't quite capture the man. He is a prospector of the subterranean world, a dreamer whose dreams are not of gold, but of vast, silent chambers and glittering formations. He is 37 years old, with a quiet intensity etched into the lines around his eyes. For Floyd, the earth beneath his feet isn't just dirt and rock, it holds his entire future. He hopes to find a new wonder, a hidden passage that will connect this humble hole to the world-famous Mammoth Cave labyrinth. In the cutthroat cave wars of 1920s Kentucky, such a discovery isn't just a geological feat. It's a winning lottery ticket. It would make him a rich man, a local legend, and secure his family's legacy for generations. He strikes a match. The small flare of sulfur is sharp in the cold air. He lights his kerosene lantern. Its warm glow pushes back the encroaching shadows, painting the damp rock in hues of orange and gold. The flame flickers, a tiny defiant star against an immense waiting darkness. Collins takes a deep, deliberate breath. The cold air stings his lungs, a final reminder of the world he is about to leave behind. He gets down on his hands and knees. The opening to what he calls Sand Cave is not a grand entrance. It is a tight, unforgiving squeeze, a mere crack in the earth that seems to inhale the morning light and exhale a cold, ancient breath. He begins to crawl, pushing the lantern ahead of him into the gullet of the cave. The limestone walls are cold and damp to the touch, slick with condensation. Water drips slowly, methodically from unseen fissures above. Each drop is a tiny tick of a subterranean clock, measuring time on a scale far greater than human lives. This is his world. The profound silence, the absolute dark, the primal smell of wet earth and stone. It's a sensory deprivation that would send most men scrambling back to the surface. But for Floyd, it is a place of comfort and possibility. He has been in places like this 1,000 times before, wriggling through the planet's hidden arteries. He is not afraid. He is careful. He is methodical. He knows the risks intimately. Every explorer does. The sudden shift of loose rock, the misstep in the dark, the passage that narrows just a fraction too much. But the promise of discovery, the allure of being the first human to ever lay eyes on a hidden cathedral of stone, always outweighs the danger. He worms his way deeper into the earth. The passage narrows, the ceiling lowering until it forces him onto his stomach. This is the true work of caving. He must exhale completely to inch his body forward, making himself smaller to fit the confines of the rock. The rough stone scrapes against his back and chest, a constant, abrasive reminder of his tight confines. The lantern, pushed ahead, casts long, dancing shadows that twist the familiar shapes of the cave into grotesque, fleeting monsters. He is now dozens of feet below the surface, far from the winter sun and the world of men. Down here, the temperature hovers at a constant chilling 54 degrees, just above freezing. The silence is absolute, a physical pressure on the eardrums, broken only by the sound of his own labored breathing and the soft, rhythmic scrape of his clothes against the rock. He is utterly alone, a single, warm-blooded soul moving through the deep, hidden veins of an indifferent planet. Yet, in this isolation, he feels a profound sense of purpose. He is close to something, He can feel it in the changing texture of the rock, the subtle shift in the air. The crawl space is barely a foot high in some places, a claustrophobic tube of stone. He pushes the lantern forward a few more inches, its light a beacon in the void, then shimmies his body to follow it. Push, exhale, slide, repeat. This cave is known to be unstable, a dangerous mix of packed sand, clay, and loose rock. It's not the solid, reliable limestone of the great show caves nearby. It is a treacherous place, a geological death trap that other, more cautious cavers avoid. But Floyd Collins is different. He is a gambler. Where others see only danger, he sees opportunity. He sees a shortcut. He is convinced this crumbling, forgotten passage is his key to a better life. A life of recognition, where his name is spoken with respect. A life of financial freedom, free from the toil and uncertainty of farming the rocky Kentucky soil. He just needs to push a little farther. Wriggle through one more tight spot. Find the connection. Prove everyone wrong. He believes with every fiber of his being that just beyond this next bend, this next squeeze, lies the discovery that will change everything. He is now deep within the earth, a place of profound silence and ancient cold. Each foot of progress has been a battle against the constricting rock, a journey deeper into a world untouched by the sun. He is 55 feet underground. Down here, the familiar rhythms of the surface world are gone, replaced by the steady, patient heartbeat of the stone. The air is thin and cold, each breath a visible cloud of vapor that hangs in the lantern light before being swallowed by the darkness. It's a damp, biting chill that seems to emanate from the very bones of the cave. He pushes onward, his body slick with mud and the constant condensation that drips from the ceiling. Every inch is earned through grit and exertion. The tight passage continues, a relentless test of will. It narrows and widens, forcing him to contort his body to become a part of the subterranean landscape he is exploring. Finally, he finds a small chamber, just big enough to sit up. The pressure on his chest and back eases, a moment of profound relief. His muscles ache, his knuckles are raw, but here he can breathe deeply. He takes a long, slow drink from his canteen. The cool water is a small comfort in this alien environment. He looks around with his lantern, the warm, flickering light dancing across the chamber walls, revealing the cave's secrets. The walls are a mosaic of solid rock and layers of compacted sand. He can see the layers of time, compressed into a fragile earthen wall. It's a geological storybook, but one whose pages are loosely bound. He must be careful. This is Sand Cave, infamous for its instability. He knows this part of the cave is especially prone to collapse. The very sand that gives the cave its name makes it treacherous. One wrong move, one dislodged stone, could seal this passage forever. He is so deep now. The thought is both exhilarating and sobering. The world above is a distant memory. Down here, only the immediate reality of rock, darkness, and his own breathing exists. He decides to turn back. The thrill of discovery is giving way to a primal need for open sky. He has explored enough for one day. He has pushed his luck, and he knows it. He has a map in his head, a route to follow back to the surface, back to safety. But as he begins to maneuver his body around, shifting his weight to begin the arduous crawl out, his foot slips on the damp, gravelly floor. It kicks a loose rock, sending it skittering into the shadows. It's not a large rock, but in this delicately balanced place, it's enough. It's the key that turns the lock. A deep, guttural groan echoes from the wall beside him, a sound that seems to come from the very center of the earth. It is the sound of the earth shifting, of ancient pressures being released. It is the sound of a trap being sprung. Before he can react, a cascade of dirt and smaller stones rains down from the ceiling, a gritty curtain falling around him. He shields his head with his arms, a purely instinctual gesture against the sudden violence. Then, a heavier weight follows. A shadow detaches from the ceiling. A single, jagged boulder, weighing more than 200 pounds, breaks free. It tumbles down the narrow shaft, ricocheting off the walls with a deafening series of cracks and thuds. The boulder slams down. It does not hit his head. It does not hit his chest. It lands with sickening force on his left foot, pinning it against the cave floor. The impact is a dull, final crunch, a sound of bone and leather yielding to stone. A sharp, searing pain shoots up his leg, an electric shock of pure agony that steals his breath. He cries out, a raw, involuntary scream, but the sound is swallowed by the stone walls, absorbed by the immense, indifferent mass of the earth. He is trapped. The realization hits him a split second after the pain. He tries to pull his leg free, adrenaline surging through him. He pushes, he twists, he strains with all his might, but the rock is immovable. It holds him like a vice, a cold, unyielding fist of limestone and sand. Panic begins to set in, a cold wave that washes over him, far colder than the cave air. His heart hammers against his ribs. He is alone, utterly and completely alone. He is deep underground, farther from help than if he were stranded in the middle of an ocean. And he cannot move. The lantern, knocked from his hand, lies just beyond his reach. Its steady light is a cruel reminder of the world he can see but cannot touch, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, each one a tiny, indifferent star in his private universe of pain. The full weight of his situation crashes down on him, heavier than the rock on his foot. The darkness seems to press in from all sides, no longer a space to be explored but a solid thing, a physical presence. The silence is no longer peaceful. It is menacing, an enormous, listening void. He is a prisoner of the earth he so loved to explore. He is pinned by the very stone he had hoped would lead him to fortune, his ambition and his tomb forged from the same material. Floyd Collins yells for help. His voice is a thin, desperate thread in the immense, unfeeling darkness of Sand Cave. It's a plea sent out into a labyrinth of stone that has no ears. He yells again and again until his throat is raw and his voice is a ragged whisper. But there is no one to hear him. Only the echo answers, a mocking reminder of his solitude. The cold begins to seep into his bones, a deep, invasive chill that the exertion of his struggle cannot keep at bay. He begins to shiver uncontrollably. The minutes stretch into an hour, then two. Time loses its meaning, measured only by the throbbing in his leg and the slow, agonizing drain of the lantern's fuel. He is trapped. The panic subsides, replaced by a cold, terrifying clarity, and the long, slow wait has just begun. To understand the man, you must first understand the land that shaped him. Dawn over limestone hills, where the ground is a storybook, and every page is rock and water. Floyd Collins was born of this Kentucky country, his life and his future pressed between layers of stone. They call it the land of 10,000 sinkholes, a place where the surface is a polite lie and the truth, the great breathing world, lives underneath. Floyd grew up with that truth. Born in 1887 to Lee and Martha Jane Collins, he learned the feel of stone the way other boys learned the feel of a plow handle. His father, Lee, had a curious streak, a habit of peering into sinkhole mouths and shallow caves on the farm. That curiosity became a family language. As boys, Floyd, Homer, and Marshall carried tin lanterns and frayed rope, edging toward the dark with the careful boldness of apprentices. The earth was their teacher. He learned early that caves have moods. A cool breath means space ahead. A sudden stillness can mean a dead end. He listened. He marked passages with chalk, tied string lines through tight corridors, and sketched by lantern glow, methodical, frugal, and exact. There were small scares, rocks shifting, a lantern sputtering low, a wrong turn corrected by touch. Each lesson carved caution into his courage. He worked the fields by day, hands in the rocky soil, then slipped underground when chores were done. Faith in hard work, respect for stone, a quiet Appalachian warmth without show. He grew a feel for caves that bordered on instinct. A temperature drop a few degrees, a faint whisper of air, signs of space beyond. He could hear the shape of a room in the echo of a single tap. He wanted a cave of his own. Not just any cave, but a show cave. A place that would draw travelers off the road and down into wonder. In 1917, after years of crawling and mapping, he found it on the family place. A mouth to a hidden world he would call Crystal Cave. Inside was a delicate garden of gypsum, glittering like frost under warm light, flower-like crystals and helictites that seemed to defy gravity itself. He treated it with reverence. This wasn't treasure to be taken, it was beauty to be shown, carefully. The family poured their sweat into wooden stairs and safe paths. They hauled lumber by hand, set railings, and brushed loose sand from ledges. A shoestring operation with righteous pride. A window was cut for a ticket booth. A hand-painted sign, Crystal Cave Tours, hung where the road dust settled. They set a fair price. They waited. But the road to the cave was mud and ruts. In a good week, a wagon could make it. In a wet one, even hope stuck fast. Visitors trickled in. A lone couple here, a curious driver there. Coins changed hands, but slowly. Too slowly to lift a family clear of debt. The Mammoth Cave operators had the advantage. Solid roads, established routes, signs that pointed the curious away from smaller dreams. Winter thinned the livestock. Lantern fuel cost more than it should. Boots wore through at the toes. He counted bills at the kitchen table and came up short. Again. Still, when he led a tour, Floyd's voice softened. He warned folks, do not touch the formations. He guarded those helictites like family heirlooms. Word spread. Neighbors said Floyd had a nose for caves, could sniff out a draft under a stone fence, or hear a staircase of rooms in the hush of a pasture. Newspaper clippings tacked to boards told stories of bold descents and narrow squeaks. Reputation came before riches. He refined his craft, string lines to keep a true course, soot-stained arrows on stone, sketches stitched into a living map. Careful, daring, both at once. The goal, always, was connection. He believed Crystal Cave was just an outpost, a finger reaching toward a giant stone hand beneath Kentucky. If he could find the route, prove an underground artery tied his land to the famous passages, everything might change. Traffic, tickets, stability, a legacy. He tested for drafts with a candle, measured breath vapor, timed echoes. Not with a watch, but with the patience of a farmer who knows seasons better than seconds. After the war, roads were promised, then paved miles away. The stream of travelers took a bend that left Crystal Cave in the quiet. He patched gear instead of replacing it, saved wick stubs, stretched kerosene. Frugal measures that felt like a man bailing a leaky boat with his hat. Yet underground, hope stayed strong. The stone spoke in drafts and drops, and Floyd listened. He always listened. Tours were small but careful. He led by example, slow feet, steady light. He would stop a reaching hand with a gentle shake of the head and a quiet grin. The money side, though, it kept coming up short. The cave wars were heating, signs sprouting like weeds, salesmen steering curiosity for a commission. Floyd's answer was not bluster, it was persistence. He kept mapping, kept reading the stone, convinced there was a back door to fortune beneath his feet. He imagined a line, Crystal Cave to Mammoth, threading under farms and fences, a seam waiting for a careful needle. On lean mornings, he'd fix his gaze on a gypsum flower and remember why he started. Beauty first, then bread. Neighbors would say, Floyd can smell a draft through a wall. He'd just smile and keep moving, string at his belt, chalk in his pocket, hunger in his heart. He was careful, always careful, yet he courted risk the way a farmer courts rain, with respect and a willingness to be humbled by it. He believed the land owed him nothing. The work would either pay or it would teach. More maps, more drafts, more long looks into blackness. And then, a thought that hardened into resolve. There must be another way in. A closer entrance, near the highway, could change everything. Shorter drive, easier road, more eyes, more tickets. The math was simple, the stone less so. He studied sinkholes and outcrops beyond his boundary lines. He traced faint drafts with a wet finger to the air. He watched leaves tremble at cave mouths no one noticed. Maps spread like quilts across his table, crystal's halls sketched in soot and pencil, lines reaching toward the great labyrinth next door. The seasons turned. The family held on. And Floyd, steady, stubborn, hopeful, fixed his eyes on the dark line on his map that said, "Try here." He did not chase glory. He chased solvency, a warm stove in winter, a fair wage for work, and a future that didn't wobble with every rainstorm. And so, the idea sharpened to a point. Find the hidden connection. Find the closer door. Find the passage that would make the stone finally pay. He gathered his simple tools: rope, lantern, chalk, string, notebook. He steadied his breath. The land had given him a life. Now he would ask it for a way through. Out in Mammoth Cave country, there are openings that hide in plain sight, holes that breathe. Floyd found himself standing at one of them, lantern in hand. He felt the draft, cold and sure, coming up from the dark. And in that steady breath of the earth, he heard a promise. Or maybe a warning. He went to work. The path ahead would demand both parts of him, the careful craftsman and the gambler. He drew a line on his map and set his sights underground. Quiet determination, no fanfare. He believed with every fibre of his being that a hidden connection waited to be found, and he would wriggle, crawl, and endure until the stone answered him back. The 1920s in Kentucky were the era of the cave wars. This was not a conflict fought with guns, but with map signs and salesmanship. It was a bitter rivalry between local landowners who had discovered caves on their property. Each one vied for the attention and the dollars of the tourists flocking to the Mammoth Cave area. Roads were lined with misleading signs, pointing travelers away from competitors and toward one's own attraction. Men, known as cappers, would sometimes even jump onto the running boards of cars, trying to physically divert tourists to their cave. It was a desperate, cutthroat business, and Floyd Collins was right in the middle of it. Floyd's crystal cave was a genuine marvel, but its location was a major disadvantage. It was too far off the main roads. He struggled to compete with the more accessible caves, whose owners were masters of marketing and misdirection. He saw his dream slipping away, not because his cave wasn't good enough, but because he couldn't get enough people to see it. This frustration pushed him to take greater risks. He became convinced that the key to his success lay in finding another entrance, a back door to the vast cave systems that he believed connected everything underground. An entrance closer to the main highway would be a game changer. This obsession led him to Sand Cave. It was located on the property of a neighbor, not his own land. It was little more than a hole in the ground, tight, sandy, dangerously unstable. Most local explorers considered it a death trap, a fool's errand. But Floyd saw it differently. Its location was perfect, just off the main road to Mammoth Cave. If he could prove that this treacherous passage connected to a larger, more beautiful system, perhaps even his own crystal cave, he could strike a deal with the landowner. He could create a new premier attraction that no one could ignore. The potential reward was so great that it blinded him to the immense risk. He had explored Sand Cave before, pushing deeper each time. He was mapping it in his mind, learning its twists and turns. He was a man possessed by a single idea, a gambler staking everything on one last dangerous bet. The cave wars had worn him down, made him more desperate. The competition was fierce, and time was running out. He felt the pressure mounting from all sides. He believed the earth beneath Sand Cave held the solution to all his problems. He just had to be brave enough, or perhaps foolish enough, to go in and claim it. It was a gamble against the earth itself. We've been here before, the boulder, the held breath, the hush before it falls. You heard the cave's trap spring shut. Here is what followed, plain and true. In the moments after the fall, Floyd begins the fight to survive. He lies 55 feet below the surface, wedged in a crawlway no wider than his chest. A boulder has dropped from above, pinning his left foot. Blood slows, nerves burn, and the rescue, such as it is, begins. Cold stone closes in. The passage seems to freeze around him. His lantern sputters, its flame shrinking to a weary glow. His breath frosts the rock, proof of winter reaching even here. He claws at the debris, digging with numb fingers to free himself, twisting against the squeeze, bracing and straining for any give at all. But the rock does not move. The light dims, the shadows lengthen. He calls out, voice rough with pain and cold. At first, only echo answers back, the cave returning his words without comfort. Then a local boy, catching the faintest shout in the winded dark, runs to raise the alarm. Fellow cavers reach him as far as the squeeze allows, bringing hands, hope, and a plan. But the shaft is too narrow. No tool can reach the foot the stone has taken. They send words instead. Hold on, we're here, threading comfort through the dark. Volunteers arrive, miners with their grit and skill, even soldiers to lend muscle and order. Yet no machine can fit the crush of that passage. So they chip and pry by hand, inch by stubborn inch, spending precious heat with every minute that slides away. They tie bottles to string, improvised lifelines in a place that offers none, water to wet a parched mouth, milk for strength, even a little coffee to chase the cold from his thoughts. They lower the bottles down and pull messages back up the same thin line. Voices keep him awake, simple conversation as a shield against the dark. Above ground, winter tents rise in sleet and mud, a camp stitched together by urgency. Generators hum, throwing cold light across weary faces. Reporters gather, flashbulbs popping at the mouth of the hill, typewriters clicking as the story grows beyond Kentucky. Some call it a carnival at the cave, a spectacle standing in the snow. Lines of cars snake down the muddy road, undeterred by weather or distance. On day 5, the cave shifts again, a secondary collapse. The sand wall sloughs and slumps, the main crawl clogs with fresh debris, and the direct route seals shut. In an instant, the only path to Floyd is gone. A new plan takes hold: sink a vertical shaft from the surface and meet him from above. Picks bite the earth, hand drills chatter and shiver in the cold. Timbers brace the throat of the new hole, and rope pulleys creak as buckets rise and fall. Freezing rain turns the hillside to slurry, soaking men to the bone. Progress slows to inches, measured in mud and breath. Days pass, then a week, then nearly 2. Time marked in lantern fuel and whispered prayers. Below, Floyd weakens, each hour heavier than the last. They send prayers down the line, simple songs to keep his mind from drifting, and short messages for home, carried carefully back to daylight. Every note is relayed up the rope, every answer lowered with care. At last, the vertical shaft breaks through, a circle of new dark over old dark. On February 13th, 1925, after days of digging, they reach the chamber and find that Floyd Collins cannot be saved. They are too late. The stone has kept its claim. Silence settles in the chamber, heavier than any rock. The camp above, once buzzing, falls quiet. His body cannot be brought out safely for weeks. The cave dictates the terms. Later, he is recovered with care and reinterred with the dignity he is due. Sand Cave keeps its counsel, out in Mammoth Cave country where stone writes the rules. In the aftermath, something shifts above ground too. Safety finally comes first, and the shine of the cave wars dulls. Standards spread from mines to show caves, hard lessons hammered into policy. The gaudy stunts that once pulled cars off the highway fade, replaced by care and clarity. Floyd Collins was more than a headline, a prospector and a showman in equal measure, and a son of Kentucky whose work ran on hope and stone. His story endures as a caution about risk and the price that ambition can demand. Ambition can open doors, but stone decides which ones stay shut. And still, dawn returns to the hills, the roads empty and quiet once more, while underground the cave keeps its patient pace, unchanged by noise or headlines. Listen, one drip, then another, the slow work of time resuming in the dark.